Just see. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar on mastering scientific posters with Professor Meriel Moore-Colyer. It's fantastic to see so many people interested in this subject and signing up for this webinar, which is it's just absolutely brilliant. We're really pleased. Now the challenge is I just need to keep on approving people that are joining us. I'm hoping it's just all going to work as it should. But I thought to start off with, I would give you a little bit of background actually on the conference and tell you a little bit about the conference where the posters are going to be. I've just had a message. Do you want to Oh, someone's asking me a technical question straight away about having to allow recording for every meeting. I'm not entirely sure about that, so I'm just going to keep going, and hopefully it will all sort itself out. So I'll just share my screen and share. I've done a very short presentation just to get us started on the conference itself. So soundness and symmetry is the theme of our conference, and oh my goodness, we're so excited. It's less than a year away. We're talking about the end of February, the 21st and 22nd, and also we're doing a third day next year, which is going to be a practical day on the Monday, soundness and symmetry in practice day. So we're really excited about this conference. We'll be celebrating 20 years of Horses Inside Out as well. So we've decided to make it bigger and better than anything we've done before. So getting all the speakers lined up and deciding on the timetable and all the details is quite a big job. And we're really very pleased with everything that we have got arranged for it so far. And as well as, oh dear, that's just disappeared. Let me go back. Oh, sorry, bear with me. But sorry, it just jumped for a moment there. So yeah, we've got some fabulous speakers planned. We really pride ourselves on the venue. We use Loughborough University. It's absolutely fantastic facilities. We have world-class presentations with, well, a fantastic lineup of speakers, and the lineup organised for the 2026 conference includes Dr. Chris Pearce, who's going to be focusing on soundness and symmetry related to dental health, Sue Dyson on the question of at what point, what's the fine line really between unacceptable lameness and acceptable asymmetry. Catherine Nankervis is going to be talking about aqua training to improve soundness and symmetry and the science behind it. Gillian Tabor is going to be looking at evidence-based methods for both assessing and treating soundness and symmetry, while Dr. Lee Clark is going to be looking at rider asymmetry, the effect on the horse, how to assess it. We're really pleased that Professor Kevin Hostler is going to be coming over from America, and he's going to be looking at spinal soundness, symmetry, so that's fantastic. Rolly Owers, he's going to be doing a very interesting talk on is there a conflict between advancing performance and optimizing performance and advancing welfare. Dr. Kirsty Lesniak, she is going to be presenting on skeletal asymmetry, and is it congenital or discipline related? And we are absolutely delighted that Ros Cantor will be joining us both at the conference, and well, in fact, all of these speakers pretty much are doing both the conference and the practical day. And Ros is going to be sharing with us her ideas for maintaining soundness and symmetry in elite event horses. And also Olympian Jeanette Breakwell will be doing training for longevity. So we have got a fantastic lineup, and I can't tell you how excited I am with it. And as well, we also have our very own Professor Meriel Moore-Colyer. She will also be doing a short presentation on an update on nutrition and the science of what's happening in that that area, as well as the scientific posters, as well as the scientific lectures. We're expanding the exhibition. So we have a soundness and symmetry exhibition running alongside the conference. So this will be both for people attending the conference and anyone that's just bought exhibition only tickets. So part of the exhibition, there's a number of trade stands. We've got the anatomy exhibition, which is expanded and it's getting quite a reputation now, which is fantastic. We're having a celebrity chat zone. We've got a couple of other sort of exhibitions planned as well. And of course, in this area, we are going to have a dedicated scientific poster presentation. And this is something that we've run at all of our conferences in the past, but it's something we really, really wanted to improve for 2026. And so I was absolutely delighted that Meriel's kind of taking the scientific posters under her wing and really helping us with it. So after a number of discussions, we've come up with some ideas that we think will really help to make this exhibition even better for the people that are viewing it, but also for those people that are interested in presenting a scientific poster. So as I say, we'll have a dedicated scientific poster exhibition zone, and the idea is that the authors will be by their posters to answer questions throughout the weekend. We're also giving the opportunity for 6 of the posters to do an oral presentation, and this will be timetabled in the main arena, the main lecture hall. So you have the opportunity to do a short presentation on your poster, and we're doing a best poster award. And I'll tell you about the prize for that, because we really wanted to make it attractive. The judges for the competition are Professor Meriel Moore-Colyer and Dr. Catherine Nankervis as well. And the submission deadline is the end of July, so there's still time to get the information across. I will be sharing the links for the application and the links for more details about the scientific poster. But let me tell you a little bit about the prizes that we have on offer, because we've put a fair amount into this, so it really is a big competition. First prize, £1,000 worth of on-demand training with Horses Inside Out. A day with an equestrian legend, and you get to choose which equestrian legend you want to spend the day with. We've already arranged for a feature of the poster to be published in the International Journal of Equine Science, and this, however, is subject to peer review. There'll be a poster in the Equine Science Update magazine and featured in their newsletter and blog. And we'll be publishing an article about the poster in the Horses Inside Out website. We've also been in contact with other magazines, and there's some opportunities for further publication, which is exciting, about the winning posters. We're also doing a runner-up prize, so £500 worth of on-demand training and publications about the poster, articles, that sort of thing. And for all posters that are accepted, we'll be publishing the abstracts in Equine Science Update, on Horses Inside Out, and hopefully some other magazines as well. So this conference really does promise to be, well, a fantastic event. We're really, really excited about it. We hope to be generating lots of waves with this, and really making a difference to horses, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So I'm going to stop my share there and just say thank you to everyone that's joined us for this presentation. And it's really fantastic that you're all interested in potentially submitting a poster or finding out more about how to do a poster. So I'm now going to hand over to Professor Meriel Moore-Colyer. Those of you that have joined the webinar series earlier in the year on Nutrition Nurtures Everything will be very familiar with Meriel. But those of you that aren't, she really is a legend when it comes to equestrian nutrition and research. She works at Hartpury University, and I can really think of no one better to guide us in this subject. So welcome, Meriel, and I'll hand over to you for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Gillian. And I'm just going to make sure I pull this up now and share my screen properly.
I didn't say that as well, just to reiterate, we're really keen for you to ask questions during this presentation. So I've got the chat open, so I'll be keeping an eye on that. If you want to ask a question in person, just put your hand up and we can, I think there's a raise a hand function, so we can give you the opportunity to ask questions as well.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thanks, Gillian. So today is one of my little hobby horses, actually, is to how to produce a great poster. Because I go to quite a few scientific conferences and have done for many years. And as you know, I'm rather long in the tooth now, so I've been at this game for a while. And I see lots of posters, and they are a great opportunity for people to present their work. But it does frustrate me sometimes that posters aren't really displaying the work in the way that they should and in the way that the work deserves. So Gillian and I put our heads together and thought, let's try and make Horses Inside Out a bit of an example of good practice and how to do this in the best possible way. So what I'm going to go through this evening is, first of all, what makes a good poster. Then deciding if your study or your type of work, because I hope we've got some industry people there who are out working in the industry and we're thinking of maybe making a poster for Horses Inside Out. So is the work or what study or the data you're gathering, would it be suitable for a poster? Then a little bit about the golden rules. It's always quite good to have an outline of what it is that you're trying to achieve. And then I'm just going to, by using one or two of my own posters that I've done over the years, just to explain to you what a good title looks like, introduction, methodology, results, conclusions. And as I go through that, I'm going to be showing you some posters, but also then we're going to look at some posters from other people, some good examples and some not so good examples. I'm going to just say a little word. I've just got the one slide about the abstract, which you need to get in by the end of July. And then hopefully we'll have some time at the end to have a bit of a discussion on your ideas and for you to ask me questions about, well, do you think this would make a good poster? And we can chat through that. So what makes a good or a suitable poster? Well, it's something that will inform people or for you to report an outcome that you think people will be interested in. So it might be a study that you've been doing, data that you've been gathering, opinions on that, anything like that, that you think the industry would gain from knowing. You might be developing a technique. If you're a coach, maybe you're a rider, maybe you're a physiotherapist, you might be somebody working in a lab, and you've developed something that is a shortcut, it better explains something, helps to achieve an aim better, anything like that. Did you think, yeah, actually, if I shared this with other people, they might benefit from this as well? It might be something that actually alters practice. Here is a better way of taking a particular sample. Here is a better way of treating a horse. Here is a different stretch that you could do that would actually improve shoulder mobility or whatever it might be. And also, posters should stimulate thinking. It should be something that somebody goes away with thinking, oh, yeah, that was interesting. I wonder how that applies to me. So looking at the three main areas that I have at the moment categorized the posters into, we might have the rather traditional scientific type of research or data gathering exercise. And that would be mainly the sort of camp that I'm in. So you might be involved with a student or a scientist, and you've actually done a structured trial. So you've taken a group of animals, a group of people, or some feeds or whatever it might be, and you have looked at differences, you've applied a treatment, and you've done this in a very structured way, and therefore you want to report this as an outcome. You might, on the other hand, have gathered information in from the general public in a survey and wanting to know how they behave or what it is that they do to solve a particular issue. And it might also just be an observational trial. And I say just, I mean, they are actually quite difficult to do, but it might be where you're going out observing groups of ponies in their behavior or groups of horses or people, anything that will actually give you some data. You might be working more in the social science side of things. So you might be more interested in people's opinions, in what they think about something, and therefore what actually do we need to do to move the situation forward. Now, you will have heard me speak in those of you that haven't, and other lecturers, I'm sure, have talked to you about the social license to operate. And there's a lot going on about that now, about what the general public think of us as an industry. And so their opinion is actually very important to canvass. So you might be one of these people who have gathered data on their opinion, and in fact, you think the industry would benefit from hearing what they feel. You might be looking at animal behavior or behaviors of humans. You might be looking at society. Where does the horse industry fit within society? How much effort it is putting into the national budget, etc. Or we might be looking at how the demographics of horse owning has changed over the years, and therefore how this is opening doors. And we've also heard quite a lot over the last sort of 10 years or so about how good things like riding and contact with horses is for remedial work and for handicapped people. So there's lots going on there in the social science thing. And as I've indicated earlier, if you're industry practice based, you might have some treatment outcomes, something that you're doing something slightly differently. You might have developed a technique yourself, but also importantly, you might want to report on the incidence of a certain thing that is occurring. So either, do owners think of it a certain way? Is there a practice or their habits actually influencing the horse in some way? So there's quite a broad church here that's suitable for a poster. So although I'm going to go on and give you some examples of some more scientific type trials, it doesn't mean that this is the only way. Certainly it isn't, and we'd like to see some posters from all of these different areas if possible. So what are the golden rules that apply to all posters, whatever you might be doing? Well, they should be simple and visual. And that's the whole point of producing a poster. Now, visual, often people think of, okay, we can do lots of colors and lots of different graphs, etc. Use color very carefully in a poster. Ask yourself, why would I put this graph, this heading, this result, this diagram in a different color? Do you want to draw attention to it? Do you want to actually use two colors or the same color in a section as against a different color because you're linking those two sections together? What is it that you're using color for? It's a great tool, but a mass of color can actually be a little bit dazzling, and you don't want to overdo that. Explain your work very simply. Most definitely, it's probably an adage of life, really, less is more, but most definitely in a poster, less is more. So it's, if you think, well, should I say this sort of thing? Oh, do I really need it? Is this really going to lend to the story I'm trying to produce here? Aim for the reader to remember one thing. If they come to your poster and they look at it and they walk away thinking, oh, okay, if I need to just check my bit height because actually I might be damaging my horse's tongue, well, then that's a success. That's something that you have achieved. You've made them think. So it's that stimulus to think. Years ago, I was told when I went to one of my first conferences that people on the whole only spend 2 minutes at each poster. So this is where you can use color carefully, you can use bold more, you can use the main message so that you get across what it is that you're trying to say. And think about it in 2 minutes. So people don't have time to stand for 10 minutes and read through a lot of dense text. That is not the aim of a poster. Don't try and explain every aspect. If you're gathering data in from years of practice, then don't try and say all the data that you've gathered or everything that you're trying to look at. Choose one thing about what might be quite a complex study that is useful and display that on the poster. What do you think is the most important thing that you've got out of your exercise, out of your experiment, out of your data gathering, out of interacting with owners? Is this aspect then easily explained via a poster? Now, you might think that this is very important, but actually, can I explain it in a poster? And if you can't, then that's probably better at some stage being given in an oral form, and actually take perhaps the second most important thing that would lend itself well to a poster and put it out. You can use large and bold type to emphasize what you found, your main findings, so it's easily seen by the readers. And if folks are interested in what you've done, they will chat to you, they will ask you. So don't be tempted to put everything on the poster. That's why we ask you to stand beside your poster, because those who are interested in your topic can ask you in more detail about it. So those are just the outlines of the golden rules. If you remember those things, then you'll be a good sort of 50% of the way there. So every good poster, of course, must have a title. It's got to be concise and say what your study is about. And we've written in the guidelines that it should be point size 70, which is about just over an inch in height when it comes out on the poster size. It should grab the reader's attention. So long, detailed titles that covers every aspect of your study, no. Make it short and relevant and accurate, but grab the interest. Make it something that's easy to understand, that it's appealing. Oh, that sounds interesting. Yes, I'd quite like to read up about that. Or something different. Think of a title that actually is a little bit jazzy, and it pulls people's interest in. Okay, so really, really important to do that well. So now what I'm going to do is I talk through each of these aspects of a poster. I'm going to use one that myself and a student produced several years ago, and I'm going to critique it as well as give you the ins and outs of it. So here is the title of this. It's the effect of a concentrate diet, abbreviated so that I can save words later on, or a novel total mixed fiber ration on growth rates and thoroughbred foals. So that's saying basically that exactly what we did. We looked at whether you feed a concentrate diet or a TMFR and how did it affect growth rates and thoroughbred foals. Now, I've added in there novel because when I go back and look at these things, I think I could make a better job of it this time round, as inevitably we all do. But so I think to grab the attention, we didn't do this in the first place, but I think I would have added novel into the title to sort of make people think, oh, why is it novel? Then why is it different? Why should I be interested in this? So it needs to be, as I say, font 70 or 0.70 in a simple font, and it's about 1 inch. Choose a clear font that is easy to read. Don't do Times Roman or some of these, really fancy fonts, because actually they can be difficult to read. And just bear in mind that you will have some people at the conference inevitably that are dyslexic, some people with poorer eyesight, some people that actually are colorblind and can't see different colors. So try and make it accessible for everybody. So something like Calibri or Arial, any of those simple fonts. And I would like to make an appeal to everybody to make them black type, because actually grey type is really hard. I'm quite short-sighted, and it's really hard to read. There seems to be a bit of an enthusiasm for that on websites nowadays, and I end up peering at the screen trying to read what it is instead of reading it very easily. And you don't want that in a poster. Then you need to give the names of all the people that are involved in the study. So the author should be the point size 28, and remember to include all the relevant folk. This is probably more important for students, because you should actually be including your supervisor and indeed any technical help that you might have had when you're looking at using horses or in the laboratory. You need to give your affiliation, your university, your college, or your business name, and that, as it shows here, can be in smaller font. Logos are actually quite nice, particularly for this was a study that was supported by the feed companies. So I had their logo there, and the work was done at the Royal Agricultural University. So I had their logo there. It can acknowledge others, and it makes it generally appealing, and just sort of grabs the interest. Looking at an introduction, then, you've got to give some context. Now, what we mean by context in this way is that why your investigation is important. So if you're looking at a disease or an issue, what numbers are affected? Obesity is one of the big things that I'm interested in. Well, very high proportion of our population, nearly 40% of horses in certain groups are actually obese. That's a huge number, so therefore that's why it's important. What is the diet required? What is the current attitudes? All these sorts of things give a little bit of information behind your studies so that we know where you're coming from. What aspect of your study addresses the question, or what are you investigating? So be very clear that you've given a little line or so about what it is, the background to why you're investigating it. Write in bullet points. I don't know where the habit came from more recently now of writing long sentences on posters. This is not an essay. You are not going for the Booker Prize here. Write in bullet points. You're trying to go, wham, look, this is interesting. This is what I'm looking at. Horse, feed, growth. Those, that's really what this is about. It's not about, well, when horses grow at a certain stage of blah, blah, blah. That's not what you want, okay? So make it short and snappy. It's very important in a poster to write an aim or objective. So write a clear aim of what the study sought to find out or to determine, okay, so that we can link that with the results. So here is the introduction. I've moved all of this around a bit in the screen so that you can actually, so we can home in on each bit before I show you the end poster. So the introduction, it's nice actually, and it makes the poster nice and clear if it's about 4 point sizes bigger than the actual text that you're using. And the minimum size we've asked for is 32 or bigger so that we can actually see it. Well, I can read it, and it means that posters then can't get too busy. So the introduction to this particular study, well, remember, we're looking at a concentrate diet versus a fiber diet. Sales dates encourage thoroughbred breeders to push foal growth rates by feeding high levels of cereals. Cereal feeding predisposes foals to developmental orthopedic diseases. A fiber diet fed as a total mixed fiber ration could mitigate this, but acceptance within the industry is challenging. So there we've said, well, why do we want to push thoroughbred growth? What problems do very fast growth rates give? And what might be an alternative? So then the objective was to determine the acceptability and growth rates of thoroughbred foals fed concentrate versus TMFR diets. So that's as clear as anything. So we've given a bit of clear background and the objective. So we've got a bit of a launching pad. Anybody who doesn't know anything about thoroughbred breeding would actually understand why we push thoroughbred foals, what the issues are, and what the alternatives are, what this investigation looked at. Then you do go into the method. Only outline the important aspects of what you did. Keep it brief and again write in bullet points. Bullet points are the order of the day for posters. A photo may help. You might want to show a photograph of animals doing something or what you're doing in a lab, but only include it if it adds to the explanation, or if it's something that when somebody's walking past and they look at it and think, oh, that's about feeding, or oh, that's about measuring, or oh, that's about rider straightness. That then it immediately draws the person in. State the statistics used if you did use statistics, and if you didn't, how the data was gathered and analysed. Now, you don't need to go into a lot of detail on that, just really quite short and brief. This is, excuse me, this is the area where you're standing beside your poster and somebody will come up to you and go, oh, I'm really interested in your study. So how many horses what actually did you do, and when did you measure them, and blah, blah, blah. That's when you will give that sort of detail. But it's only just to give an outline. So here is the methodology that we used in this one. 8 foals were matched pairs into 2 groups, A and B, according to birth date. So we matched 2 groups, and they were matched by birth date. Group A were fed concentrates, Group B fed the total mixed fibre ration. Each week we measured live weight, height, heart girth, and length, and we looked at the differences between these using t-test. Now, there was quite a lot more to that study and more detail, and I could go into when we fed them and etc., but that's the sort of thing that you would do in a discussion. And then just to pull things in, we produce, and everybody likes a picture of nice furry foals. So there we had a picture of the foals actually eating the total mixed fibre ration. Okay. Results. Again, bullet points for the main findings. And this is where now you need to see how the whole poster pulls together, because you must match what you had put in your introduction and your objectives. So you've got to address those points. You can't say, here's the background and here's what you've done, and our results are on slightly different things, but that's not going to make a good poster. So make sure all of these things do match. Then graphs can help show trends and big differences, and they can have a good impact in some studies if you want. But again, only put them in if you think they are visually appealing and can be looked at at a glance, and it can show something. You don't want readers going and having to peer at the axes and trying to decipher what it is that you've put out there. Photographs and tables must be good quality, and they must be simple and standalone. Now, standalone means that if you were to take a picture of the or a paper copy of the graph of the table and you go and hand it to somebody in the street, they would be able to read the title and look at the graph and know what it was about. They might not know the ins and outs, but it would actually explain what is on the paper. And that's what standalone means. And that's what it's important to be in the results section. So that was the methodology. Then the results then for this particular study, all foals readily ate both diets. Swollen joints were observed in 2 of the concentrate diet fed foals. The concentrate diet group started and completed the trial a little bit heavier than the TMFR group, but the average daily gain, height, girth, and length increases, the group A were equal to group B. Okay, I'll come back to this in a minute. Then we added a graph which actually showed that here are group A foals. They started out heavier, but this is the important thing, is that look at the way the graphs keep their the same trajectory, the same growth rate. So if you're big and you're growing at a certain rate, you're going to stay big. If you're smaller and you're growing at the same rate, you're still going to end up smaller because you started out smaller. But the big point here was that the fiber diet actually allowed the foals to grow at the same rate as the others. Now, this is where we sort of got a little bit ahead of ourselves here, because sometimes there's a recommendation in the literature that you can calculate live weight according to this particular formula. And we wanted to test that as well. And actually, we found that because we were measuring them every week, and we had 2 groups, etc., we had plenty of foals to measure, that it was actually inaccurate for predicting live weight in growing foals. But where was the objective to actually allow us to put that in? So we rather snuck that in at the last minute, and shouldn't have, because it's not covered by any of the introduction or the objectives. So that was a little bit of an also ran, and that was something we shouldn't have done. So I was going to go back to make sure just there that make sure that always under the titles that you've got a clear figure title or table title. So then conclusions. So we've no discussion in the poster. The discussion is always you chatting to people. So the conclusion should be as simple as possible. Address the introduction and objectives. So not only should the results actually say, well, these are the results of the things that we were looking at, but you should emphasize this in the conclusions. They need to be relevant, and they must be snappy and memorable. So this is where your reader goes away with one thing. Right, okay, a total mixed fibre ration will actually give foals a good growth rate. And so here the conclusions were the specifically designed TMFR was readily eaten. And so that was, we wanted to know, was it acceptable? Yes, it was. Produced equal growth rates, and thoroughbred foals compared with the conventional diet without causing any visible adverse joint developmental problems, which we've said that the cereal feeding can predispose foals to developmental orthopedic disease. So when it's all put together, that's what the poster looks like in its entirety. So it's actually quite a nice looking poster. There's some visual appeal to it. It's quite nicely balanced because we've got a picture here and a graph here. You might say that this area here is a little bit squashed, but the font size is good. It follows a clear flow, a natural flow. But in terms of scoring this and scoring, first of all, when we're looking at how good a poster is, it should have a good visual appeal. So it's balanced. I've just noticed that. And do the photos help comprehension? Well, clearly that was about foals eating fiber. Is it clear and easy to read? Good font, legible graphs and tables in logical order. So that's the first thing. I'm going to stand in front of these posters and I'm going to look at it and go, okay, what does it look like? Can I read it? Is it good color, etc.? It's the visual appeal. It's a poster. Then you go into the detail. Is the background clear? Is the objective clear? And is there actually an issue here to be addressed? So you need to highlight the fact that what I did in that last poster was the fact that animals get orthopedic diseases if they're fed high concentrate diets. And also there is an alternative, but the industry are reluctant to get to it. So and they need some evidence, as it were, to show that an all fiber diet would work. So yes, there was a real issue there. So be sure that you have an issue behind there to your poster. The methods are sufficient to know roughly what was done. I don't want to know all the detail. Are the results clear? The data analysis evident? The graphs and tables relevant? And do they answer the introduction and the objectives? So all of those things that we've just gone through. And does it address the main objective of the study? So the poster that I've just shown you, this poster, it's a good poster. It's nicely done. It was well received, but it's not a winning poster. And it's not a winning poster because of what I highlighted earlier on. There's something in the results that wasn't alluded to in the introduction or the objective. So therefore, there was a little bit of a mismatch here in terms of the things that we were producing. So that's something that you've got to be aware of. It doesn't mean that it wasn't a useful study and not a decent poster, but it's just not top class. And we're all aiming for top class, aren't we? And then the last thing, the third thing that I might be thinking about, no, not I might, I will be thinking about is what level of impact might this study have? So actually, what is the potential for this study to actually alter the behavior of people to bring something useful to the equine industry? So if I've got a couple of posters and they're both looking really good on the visuals and that all the sections meet very well, I'm going to be looking at which one of those, how do I differentiate between them, and which one would we feel has the most impact. So that's sort of how your work will be assessed. So other examples, there's just one other example no, I've got a couple of other examples of posters that I've produced here. Again, looking at the overall visual appeal of this poster, it's quite colourful. I think the pie chart here was because it's showing different levels of bacteria that are in dry hay, it was quite different. But I don't know, looking at it now, I think it's almost a little bit too much colour in there. But it was a decent study. Again, it was a highly rated poster, but it wasn't a winning poster, probably because it was just a little bit too busy. But there were three things that we wanted to present. We wanted to present the diversity of bacteria in dry hay. we wanted to show how some of these key species that we're looking at might differ between two different hays of the same species, but they were just conserved differently. So it just shows how variable hay was. And then this one was just looking at how certain bacteria are as a increase or decrease according to soaking time. The thing that probably isn't so good about this particular poster was that the importance of it was that we wanted to look at bacteria to see if there was any implication for equine gastric ulcerations. And the bottom line is that this study was a bit inconclusive in that future studies must clarify the relationship between soaking treatments within a yard environment and acidic bacteria profiles and examine their possible roles in the development of EGUS. So it didn't really change behavior or address an issue. It's a step in the right direction, and an awful lot of science does go in that. So it makes little steps, and then suddenly somebody has the eureka moment. So it doesn't mean it's a bad study, but it doesn't have the wow factor. Look what we found, wasn't this amazing? Okay, if we could have said certain bacteria are increased in soaking and they cause equine gastric ulceration, well, then I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be a millionaire. So it's just to sort of give you an idea of the fors and against posters. Here was another one that a student of mine produced, and this was again reasonably nice looking poster, but this hay gain forager was the topic that we were looking at. But the picture didn't really lend much. It would have been much better if we'd had a horse actually feeding from the forager. So the picture is almost a little bit of a waste of space. But the biggest issue with this particular poster, when looking at how everything matches up together, was that it started off housing conditions, feeding regime and diet can predispose to a plethora of digestive, metabolic and behavioral problems. Ad libitum access to forage is desirable, but can lead to obesity. Then we go on to say what we did. We had normal horses, hyperreactive horses. We measured behavioral markers, so biomarkers, blink rate and initiation rate, and analyzed the data by ANOVA. And we produced some of the intake times and the bite rate stuff here in the table. And the behavioral blink rate and behavioral initiation rate did not alter between treatments, showing that no frustration was initiated when hay was restricted via this particular feeder. So, in fact, we did partially address the objective, but look at the title of the table. Intake time and bite rate when 4 hyperreactive horses were fed hay 4 ways. Where are the normal horses? So we did not present any data on the normal horses. So I put this in for an example that to actually start to put in the normal horses would have made the poster too big. So what we should have done there was just to highlight looking just at the hyperreactive horses. The normal horses could have been produced in another poster. So it just gives you how you need to go back and think, have I addressed every aspect of that? So if we'd done this behavior of hyperreactive stabled horses, we would have nailed it, but we didn't, and a better picture, but we didn't. So it just shows you I've been doing it for years and I don't get it right either. Here is another example of a very interesting study, an investigation to forage dunking and influencing factors in horses. Again, visually, you look at the poster. We've got some nice graphs down on the right-hand side. Good use of red and black so that you're not overdoing the colours. But then we start to look at the detail of the poster, and it's all a little bit too wordy. There's too much explanation. They are bullet points, but the bullet points are written in sentences. And so this is a really interesting study, a really good study, but unfortunately has lost a little bit out in the presentation of the poster because it is not giving the reader this bang factor. So some of the things like, if you look at, for example, the method here, an online questionnaire was created within the use of MS forms, including closed-end and Likert scale questions. Well, okay, that's something you write in a thesis. what you would write is questionnaire, um, questionnaires circulated, and give the dates. Okay. Questionnaire covered some breed, medical conditions, forage and stabling, environment, development, understanding of demographics, establishing relationships within the data. So, yeah, I'm sure they collected data on all of those things, but you only want to present maybe two of those things within a poster. And so it goes on. You can look at these a little bit at your leisure, but it's just an example of how things really, how you need to keep things nice and tight. Results and discussion, results identified potential links within management factors, foragers, workload, discipline, and medical conditions having an influence on forage dunking behaviour. Well, in actual fact, there's nobody who couldn't have said that before this study was done. So what they've failed to do here is to pull out the important bits of their study, what they actually found, and not to worry about all the other stuff. So this is where I say in the beginning, take an aspect of your study and present it and hit people between the eyes with it, rather than trying to present everything in all at once. So here's another good study, but these are poor posters now. And this is another example of one that's recent. Yeah, a good, initially quite visually appealing, although I would have said a little bit too much color. But as somebody marking this, way, way too busy, too long sentences. The results section is actually got so much in it that talk about taking one factor home. There's nothing that I can take home from this one particular standout factor. There might be lots of little things, but no one factor. And be aware of this sort of thing if you're presenting on a survey, that actually these are the demographics of the survey. So you've got what percentage of people were between 8 and 24, etc. That is not a method, that's a result. So don't mix up those sections. Discussion, we don't do discussion in posters, we do conclusions. So I think I would have cut these down to 3 or 4 words on each one and pulled out the most important thing. Application to the industry is a nice little add-on if you have space, and that's good, but not in that particular form. Definitely not in that form. Make it short and snappy. And here finally is another one. And I think I remember what this is about, but I mean, this is an essay. This is not a poster. Okay. Again, a really useful study, some interesting things to come out of this, but just not in this form for a poster. So it's a poster is a particular thing, a particular skill. It's a particular way of delivering a message. And this sort of thing is best in a paper that you could have that in an abstract that you want to get for an oral presentation or a discussion with somebody, but not for a poster. So there's lots in here that I could have distilled down into making a really good poster, making it out into bullet points. So those are just a few examples to finish with. I just wanted to mention that Gillian mentioned these abstract submission, which is on the 31st of July. And really, we want a maximum of 300 words. And so this is the sort of thing that you need. This is how long your abstract is. This is exactly 300 words, I think. And this was just something we're looking at: purchasing behaviour and feeding management of UK horse owners when sourcing haylage for their horse. So it was just looking at what do they do and how do they manage their horses when they're trying to feed haylage. So an introduction, materials and methods, results, conclusion. And that's it. So it follows the same format as your poster, but obviously it comes in this prose form. Within this abstract, we don't want tables, we don't want graphs, we don't want any visuals. Just want to give it to me straight about what it is you did, what is your issue, that's your introduction, and it says this study sought to determine how owners source and feed their haylage in order to help improve practice and reduce potential horse health issues. So that was the aim of the study. So a little bit of background, the aim, then how you did it, and look at how minimalist this is. An online survey was circulated via social media from June to December 2020. The survey was aimed at owners who fed haylage with questions on source, feeding, management, and quality. So I've only given a few, but you can imagine that we went into quite a bit of detail on the feeding. Data were collected, expressed on a proportional basis. So that was the way the data analysed. And then we go into the number of people that we got. So it was a good, strong survey. And what percentage did what. And then the conclusion, again, give it exactly what it is that you found, the most important aspect of what you found. And that will give me an idea of whether I think your study is worthy to be put into a poster. So you need to do yourself proud in your abstract as well. So I've done enough talking now, and time is moving on. So I just wanted to now see if any of you have any ideas of what it is that you would like to do. How would you take your data, your information, and put it into a poster? So the floor is open. I think you're muted, Gillian.
Classic. Sorry about that. That's a great question, and I am so keen to hear this. I think you can all unmute yourselves. You can switch your video on so you can join us. And if you're feeling a bit shy, you want to put questions in the chat, you can do that as well. There's a couple of questions already. Vicky has asked, what about case report?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because again, you're trying to give somebody an idea or say what you found. Again, you would write it out in a very similar format, actually, but keep it snappy, but you will have to say a case study on and then go on, so that we know that it's only one, so that I'm not going to be looking at this going, well, you can't have an N of one, but if it's a case study, you can, of course.
Yeah, that's great. So that really opens it out. I think one of the things that I'm really keen is for this not just to be limited to somebody that's necessarily at a student at a university.
No, no.
Potentially, if you're working with horses and you're seeing horses a lot, if you're a physio, if you're a massage therapist, if you're a farrier, or whatever you do, if you're seeing horses on a regular basis, then you're going to be coming across issues and questions that could be addressed with something like this. So I'm sure there must be some more questions. So let's just see. Has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask? Oh, here we go. Kelly Hibbett. So if you'd like to, you put your hand up. So shall I, you can speak. Do you want to switch your video on as well?
I've got a problem with my camera at the moment.
Okay,
so I was having major issues with laptop full stop before we started. Presumably you can hear me.
Yes.
So I'm more of a service provider as a weight management specialist. And one of the things that I have introduced to the equestrian community is, beyond the feed companies providing that mobile weight service, my service is more about empowering the owners with data of their own horses to understand whether their management practices are having the desired effect. And by using actually quite a novel approach of, I operate an online app that we have built as part of the company, so people have got access to that at any time. They can revisit their data and actually sort of make those informed decisions with that. Is that something that would be of interest for the Horses Inside Out conference? It's sort of a novel new thing coming into the industry as a service.
Well, I would have said yes, because I think, Gillian, we're accepting posters across all topics, aren't we? So it's not just going to be soundness and symmetry, isn't that right?
No, I think we sort of said, yeah, absolutely. When we say soundness and symmetry, that's actually a very broad topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you think of soundness, it's not necessarily musculoskeletal soundness, but soundness of the body as a whole, which I would sort of think that comes into. So if there could be some link like that, then yes.
Yes, I mean, weight obviously it's sort of this thing, and I've been sat trying to think how I would define a poster, because there's so many different ways that you could put the information in. Weight on itself has massive implications for the
Yeah.
musculoskeletal system itself and soundness
Well,
and
I think
contributes.
that I think what I would do in that case is something like, introduction of a novel recording system or a novel, whatever, the
Mm,
online app, which helps to track weight loss in your animal, and then you go through and produce a show how they've used how the app has actually allowed people to cause weight loss in their horses,
mm.
etc. So you present it more as an objective study, not as something go, hey, buy my app, because
No,
that's not
no, that's not what it's
right.
about.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's just trying to put it round in that way
Mm,
of or showing how your app has helped, and you might have done this with 50 horses. So if you can gather the data and show that
mm,
the number of times they've used the app has actually correlated with the amount of weight that these 50 owners
mm,
have caused their horses to lose, then you've got a really good story.
mm. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Um, and we have another question. Are there general guidelines as to the choice of graph style?
No, because graphs are there to a visual way of producing your or visualizing your data. So some type of data is better produced as box and whisker. Others as, oh, well, you have to have continuous data if you've got a line graph. Sometimes you might feel a pie chart is better. Others a bar chart. So it really does depend on the type of data. So I think. Just have a quick Google on the internet and see the best way, if you want to produce a bar chart, the best way to produce that. And as long as it has clear, don't overmix colors, make sure all things are labeled, the axes are labeled, the scale is there, and if you've any statistics, make sure that's on there. But that's the same for any type of graph that you would use.
Yeah. And so also has asked, is there a poster about a case study report that we could just see for guidance?
Ooh, I don't have one.
No.
What I can do is I can ask my colleagues at Hartbury and see if we've got any case study type stuff like that somebody might have produced.
Do you know what?
Because I go ahead.
I think we had some case studies submitted for last year's conference, which are probably on the conference page. But
Okay.
whether they were good examples or just, or not good, they were all good examples, I'm sure, but whether they were excellent examples, which is
Yeah.
really what you want to be seeing, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's always was what I've tried to emphasize throughout this talk, really, is because you don't have a good poster doesn't mean you don't have a good study. So I'm sure they were good studies. They might not have just been good posters in terms of presentation. But if you have had a couple, Gillian, wing them over to me and I can do a bit of a quick critique of them, and then they could go out and sort of say, well, you could improve this, that, and the other, which might help.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. No, that's super. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? If you'd like to raise your hand, then speak. We can do that. Or if you want to put any questions in the chat, because I can tell you this is a fantastic opportunity having Meriel here to
It
answer.
says there are 19 things in the chat, so there's quite a lot that I can, let's see.
I think they're questions that we've pretty much covered. We've had questions
Okay.
about the size of the posters. And I actually have a question. So when
Yeah.
you're creating your poster and you were talking about the point size, is that just doing it in Word and then it works out right when you print it at the bigger size? Or do you have to do your setting, your page setting in Microsoft Word or whatever whatever software you use?
Yeah, I mean, I would use print or something like that. And then it will keep. You need to look at the guidelines of the font size, because otherwise you can make it too busy. And then if you set your page, so if you go into something like print and you'll say what size the poster was, what size we said it was A1, wasn't that right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you set it as A1, and then you think, right, you put in your first text box would be your title, and you start to write the title, and then you put that into 0.70, and it will adjust it for that size of screen. It'll look very small on your screen, but it will come up to be the right size. So that's what you need to do with it, really.
Yeah. We've had another question from Claire Chamberlain. Just to clarify, is it always the case that you only have conclusions and not discussions? As in, would
Yes.
also apply for psychology related posters?
Yes, I think so, because a discussion is exactly what it says. It's a knocking backwards and forwards and looking at limitations, etc. And what you're trying to do in a poster is to give a snapshot. So the discussion is something that you will do standing beside your poster and talking to people about it, rather than so no discussions in a poster. It's a contradiction in terms, really, I'm afraid, for a poster.
Yes, yeah. Would you need to have produced a full written report to go along with the poster?
No. No, we've said that an abstract will do, and that if you want to, some people, that has become a habit at scientific conferences, is that they will produce handouts that you can give people with more information, and you can do that if you want to, but no, you don't have to. I mean, a poster is a great way. I mean, the first one that I showed you about the folds with the concentrate and the fiber ration. Um, what we did, that went out way before we'd finished analysing all of the data, because we just wanted to put a hook out there and say to everybody, "Guys, look at what we're doing." So often there are things that happen sort of almost part of the way through the study.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is really good. Um, yeah, Lucy says thank you. That's good. Yeah, we've well, I'm sure that well, I'll tell you what then, because I don't. I'm sure there will be some more questions coming in. But maybe you'd like to share with us some ideas for what you're thinking about. Maybe thinking about doing a poster or an idea for a poster. That if you'd like to share that in the chat or speak it, then you're very welcome to do that. That would be really interesting. And perhaps you could also share in the chat if you think you would like to submit a poster, or if there's anything that's making you feel maybe that's putting you off. Perhaps you could share your thoughts and feelings on that. Really interesting for us to hear.
And everybody has to start somewhere, I mean, I remember the first poster I did, I'm sure wasn't very good. And as I've just said, some of the later ones here, I've just given you ideas of why some of my posters I haven't thought would be necessarily fantastic. So don't be put off. It doesn't mean that it's great fun to do a poster, actually, and it's great fun to be part of actually somebody delivering something at a conference. So it might not be perfect, but you've still got your idea out there. You're still airing your study or your ideas, and that's very important. You'll get better and better at it as time goes on.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity to take part of the conference as well, to take part in the conference rather. Uh,
Yeah.
and so there's been a question about the application form. So I did at the beginning of the chat, and I'll send an email out with the recording of this presentation. But I also included details about the scientific posters, and I've included the application form. So just to clarify, because someone was asking about the are we asking for an abstract or just filling out the form? But actually, the abstract is within the form. So we've got this box where it says a maximum of 300 words, and that's where you write that abstract that Meriel illustrated how to do. So the rest of it is just your contact details basically, so we can get back in touch with you.
And I mean, at that stage, if I think you've got a worthy study, but I'm a little bit concerned about the way it's produced, I'm not going to just reject it. I'll get back to you with saying, well, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you supply that? And then that will help you develop your poster. But we're not going to make you produce the posters, because they do take a little bit of time to produce, and then go, oh no, we don't want that. So that we wouldn't do that to you. That would be horrible.
So someone has got their hand up. Celeste Kelly, would you like to share your ideas or thoughts? Question? I see you've raised a hand. Maybe not. Maybe that was an accident.
Somebody just said, can this be a study you have done yourself without help from university? Yes, please. Those are the sort of folks we want. Exactly. We need to hear from you people in the industry. You won't even hear from you about what you think the issues are, what issues need to be investigated. Yes, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the whole point of this, really. It's just so keen. We want to try and make it more accessible, really. And I think that professionals in the equine industry have got so much to add to this. Their experience or your experience and sharing your ideas. I think that would be yeah, really good.
So Becky, what was the topic? Not scientific or a study, but rather a novel business practice for equine professionals to use and to teach their clients in identifying horses' expression of pain. Yes, please, definitely the sort of thing that we want. Did my degree, I do feel very out of practice in the yard. I'm 50 years position to provide useful information for the industry, but don't know where to start. Yes, that's so. Go back through the questions that you ask yourself when you're producing a poster. What could I tell people? Why would this be important? And could I take an aspect of what I've found out over the last 20 years and distill that into a message, basically.
Celeste, if you want to ask your question, I believe you've
Yes, I finally unmuted myself. Thank you. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I am a body worker. And the thing is, I'm not going to be able to be over there and present anything because I'm in the Southwest of the United States. So I'm wondering, should I do a poster?
Gillian, that's over to you. Do you,
Well, you could submit your ideas and then see. So do the submission, and if it's an absolutely fascinating topic and it really fits and it's absolutely brilliant, then potentially we could have a poster. But couldn't you come over for the conference? You'd love it. It'll be
Oh, I'm
perfect.
sure I would, my dear. That's not the point. The point is physically getting myself there. You know, I can't quite paddle the Atlantic on my own steam.
Can you
I
get could you get somebody who maybe a good friend who works with you or somebody who's in some way involved in the study or whatever to work with you to present it over here for you?
It's not really a study. It was the result of an intuition. And
Right.
it was a result of a use of myofascial release that I found out the physiology involved after the fact. And I mean, I have some pictures that when I show people, it just stops them dead, like a before and after with a horse. And it just stops them dead, and um, it's just that I'm so passionate about the non-invasive approach of myofascial release and what it does. It literally rebalances the entire body and you don't touch a bone.
Well,
because the bones are floating. The bones are floating in a sea of fascia.
Well, you can certainly submit your abstract that's complete the application form, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Lovely.
Because I just think maybe other body workers out there who are searching for maybe something different, something more effective, something better, it might open something up for other body workers, which is going to open it up for thousands more horses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That sounds great.
Yeah. There's a couple of people, 3 people have got back about various studies, and I've just quickly scanned through them, and I would say yes to all of them. So your title can be a question, yes, and yes, there's some interesting things here that I would love to see abstracts on, certainly. So yes, if in doubt, put in an abstract. You can only not you won't know if you don't put it in. So put it in and let's see.
Okay, Claire Shand would like to ask a question. So if I,
Yeah, Claire, just go ahead.
Hi,
Sure.
thank you so much. I don't know, they keep moving Zoom. I can't find the hand raised, but never mind. Really great presentation. So interesting. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, obviously, well, not obviously at all, but to lots of people, but we work in parasite control, which is obviously not having a direct link to soundness and symmetry. So like I don't want to be like a top tenuous. I love the idea of creating a poster. There's lots of things that we are finding and working on and developing, working with horse owners. Obviously, parasites do have an impact on all of that, particularly through the gut and the hindgut and the implication there, but it's not directly. So I didn't want to kind of be attaching it to something that was a non-starter when it could maybe in a future year be a more viable poster before I start. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of get your feel on how kind of broad you were going to go with that. And I guess some of that might depend on the posters that you get in, but yeah, just a bit of guidance would be brilliant. Thanks.
I mean, I think it's going to be a fairly broad church for the posters. We would like to think. Um, I mean, this, as Gillian said, soundness and is maybe not the symmetry, but the soundness aspect. I would say starts in the gut anyhow, because everything starts in the gut.
Doesn't
So
it? Right.
so that's the sort of thing I would definitely say that. And I think somebody's just asked about sort of sugar loss in horses in hay, feeding horses, etc. I think there's going to be a broad church there, so you wouldn't be alone in that. But the other thing is that remember what I said at the beginning about maybe just presenting an aspect of what you're doing rather than the whole thing. Because at a later stage, if you think, well, okay, I want to take this to a scientific conference somewhere, I want to do this, I want to take it somewhere else, you will have more work, you will have more data, you will have things that you can add to it. So just because you put it in to Horses Inside Out does not stop you putting it in elsewhere at a later date.
Got you. That's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
okay. Do we have any more questions at all or ideas that you want to run past us? Well, in that case, I would love to see some of you, hopefully many of you, submitting the application for a scientific poster. It's a great opportunity to share your ideas, and we really think that your ideas are invaluable to to the equine industry. And yeah, we'd love for you to apply. And I think you can see from Meriel's approach that if you want a little bit of help with it once you've done your application, then if it's needs a bit of a tweak, then we're here to help you. If any of you have got any questions you want to send to us about it, please just send an email to info@horsesinsideout.com, and we will make sure that we're there to help you and guide you as much as we possibly can, because well, really, it's the application of science, isn't it, that's going to be so useful for helping horses. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to Meriel for giving up her evening to share this information with us, and thank you to everyone for attending. And I will send you a copy of the recording, and really hope to see your applications come flooding in.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.